What's up, everybody? Roger and James here from the DisKingdom Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about Kingdom Hearts Union Cross being banned in Belgium due to its gambling and loot boxes. Now, lots of stuff has been going on in this past, but if you want to keep up with the latest on everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So, first off, this whole thing of being banned, it's a bit of an odd one. It's going to be ending on December the 6th. They've kind of given a month's notice. All the app purchases, and it will then be removed from the Google and the iOS store. This also kind of ties in there. Square Enix are also removing some of the Final Fantasy games. Now, Belgium is kind of in a special place because this is not just happening here. EA have been fighting with this because they've had to remove stuff from their FIFA game. 2K have been removing stuff due to the basketball game that they released. And right. There's lawsuits going through about this with those big companies going after. I don't think Square are fighting it in that thing. I think they're just letting the other two big boys go after it, because the trouble is it's this kind of weird thing of Belgium are taking a very strong stance. You know, we had all that thing last year with the loot boxes and gambling, and you know, things now are having to be displayed that there is in-app purchases and different logos. You know, here in the UK we have to have there's a little logo goes on boxes now, or when you buy it, saying that it's got in-app purchases. And the US government's been a bit hit and miss on it. Like, I know Hawaii were fighting against it, but other countries haven't. But traditionally, Europe have a little bit more of a different stance on things. When customers or people are getting ripped off, or there's being anything over here in Europe, governments are a lot quicker to ban stuff or to get rid of stuff. If evidence is proving otherwise, America has a slightly different system over there, which tends to let the market sort of reign itself. So the big American companies are fighting with this, and rather than make changes to the game, they are just removing them from the store, because at the moment, essentially, it's cheaper for them to get rid of the games and lose the sales than spend the money adjusting the games and do it. And I also think they're worried about adjusting the game, because then other countries and other people will be going, well, you removed it for them, so you can remove it for us as well. So I think they're trying to play the thing of, well, now, so people in Belgium are not going to be able to play it. I'm not entirely sure how big the player market is in Belgium, but it's that thing of that could easily spread through Europe very easily, because once one European, and I think it's going through some kind of things at the minute, of just deeming that loot boxes are gambling. And as much as it's just this like really weird thing, it's just the fact that it's hit a Disney game, and quite a big mobile game. And if it takes this one down, you're going to start seeing this happening in other ones. I know there was a thing in a lot of countries now where on the mobile games and on the console games, they have to show the percentage. You notice now on like Disney Magic Kingdoms game, when you click on something, it will tell you in a loot box that you've got like a 15% chance of getting this, or an 11%. They had to, a lot of countries brought that in where they had to tell you up front what your percentage was of getting these things. So there are rules coming in, but Belgium's kind of really been quite strong on this one.
Yeah, so there's a couple things going on there. And I want to add on this one point, in addition to them not fighting this, you know, Square and all that, I suspect that there's also a certain amount of they're kind of hoping that the player base in Belgium will go, no, we want to play these games. Government, stop with this nonsense. Stop banning these games. We want, because 2K very famously put out an open letter to fans in Belgium being like, you need to talk to your legislators to let us put loot boxes back in NBA 2K 18 or 19, whatever the most recent one was, which got met with massive amounts of ridicule, as it should.
Well, could you imagine even in America, if that happened in America and they turned to America and said, we want it, like, would anybody actually be requesting this back? Nobody would be wanting it back.
No, and that's another point. Of course, you're talking about us Americans over here. We tend to be much slower about legislating this kind of thing, and I think there's a certain mentality that we grow up with in America, which is rightly or wrongly, you know, you're supposed to be responsible for yourself. So putting cigarettes in front of people and putting gambling in front of people and all this stuff isn't, and I'm kind of quoting the mentality, not what it actually is, but isn't the fault of the people who put it there. It's your fault for letting yourself fall into the trap of it.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's like 100% accurate, well, no, it's not 100% accurate because a whole bunch of stuff we're not really going to go into. But that's kind of the mentality over here versus Europe, which is kind of more along the lines of, hey, government, you're supposed to protect us from this stupid nonsense. So, that's kind of the give and take. And it's the Asian markets too. They were the ones who started that whole you've got to put the percentage chance. But of course, the gacha games, the loot box games that they've got over there, massive industry, absolutely crazy the amount of money that they make in the Korean and Chinese and Japanese markets. So, I mean, we talked about this previously. We had a little debate year and a half ago, maybe, where we're kind of like, are loot boxes gambling? I think the conclusion we came to is they're so freaking borderline. They're not quite, but they're borderline. And I still kind of stand by that it's not quite gambling, but it's so close to the edge that it doesn't even really matter. I would not be in the slightest bit sad if loot boxes just disappeared tomorrow.
Yeah. All I know is that if this rule from Belgium starts sliding out to Europe, then you're going to start seeing a bigger impact on what they're doing, because the problem is Belgium's small enough that it might be along the lines of, well, we're just not going to release it there. If you start saying Europe, or and you start expanding it, you're going to start to lose massive portions of your audience and the way of making money. And that's why they're trying to stomp on it now in Belgium. And I don't think they will win, because European governments are even less friendly to American corporations. It's like there's not really, that doesn't tend to go down. It's that kind of thing. If they feel that children, especially, are at risk, European governments are a lot stronger on kind of stopping stuff. And I think as much as they're fighting to get rid of it, and I know EA and 2K and Square Enix and everyone are making more money from these things, but if they don't control themselves, they will be controlled by the government. And this is the government stepping in some places. And it is a shame. It's a shame for Kingdom Hearts fans in Belgium, but it could end up making, it's going to make them looking at these mobile games and going, right, we can't fund them in the same way. This thing about making loot boxes is all about making more money, because they could put these packs up for what's inside of them available independently. If you want that skin or that badge or anything like that from the game, you can just buy it. And therefore, that would get around the law. But they want that loot box thing because they want you not to get it, so you buy another one. And that is fundamentally the big thing. I mean, I know when I play Disney Magic Kingdoms, I brought a few boxes, and the last thing was some gems that I'd saved up, because I looked on it and the percentage chance was 15% of one character and 15% of the other chat. I mean, I've got at least a 1 in 3 chance of getting something that I want, and I'm only using the in-game currency that I've built up. But buying them, and then another character comes up and it's $3.99, I just bought the character. And that is the big difference of, I don't like loot boxes. I don't like the idea of them. I got I wouldn't say but the concept of blind buying boxes with Vinylmation, in physical form, just little toys. There's loads of figures in there. And the amount of duplicates I got, it was great when I could swap them and trade them. But then that started drying up and you couldn't do it. But with video games, if you get stuck with some really lame currency or an outfit you didn't want, you can't do anything with it. You can't trade it. You've got nothing you can actually do with it. At least if you go into a supermarket and they've got those little toy, you are getting a toy in there. You just don't know. Those things have been around for donkey's years, but they never were deemed, they're still in supermarkets now, but people don't see them as a risk.
I mean, baseball cards have existed for decades. I mean, almost a century at this. It might even actually be a century at this point, but they've existed for so long, and it's the same market idea. But again, you have to be able to trade them with people. I've got a Babe Ruth, I want your Hank Aaron kind of thing, and we can trade. Some games do have an exchange system. They can go, oh, you didn't want that item? You can get a small amount of this currency instead, and you can build up enough of that currency to maybe either get another loot box or direct purchase. I know Overwatch has... You can't get rid of the skins you want, but if you get the same skin twice, you get currency, and if you get enough
Yeah.
currency, then you can buy a skin that you want specifically. You can just buy it directly. And I think the real thing with loot boxes depends entirely on how available they are without spending money. And of course, for most mobile games, they're pretty much not. You know, you were talking about Disney Magic Kingdoms. I know when I was playing that, I would be able to build up enough gems normally to buy one or two things just from having played the game without actually having to drop money on it. But most games will trickle out that premium currency so far in between gaps that it's completely worthless. You're not going to get much doing that. But on the other hand, you have video games like Forza Motorsport 7. They're getting rid of their loot boxes, but they already had it in the game. But you get them so frequently. You get them for every single thing you do in the game that I never felt once compelled to buy a loot box. It was like, all right, I'm fine with this because I'm just getting them. They're raining from the sky. And it's all how you implement it. And we have mountains of evidence that the longer this goes on, the less ethically people put it into their games. Activision, EA, Ubisoft, all of them are getting more and more and more predatory with how they're doing it. So
it's just gonna keep growing. I mean, I was watching a documentary. There was something on TV on BBC's Watchdog the other day, and they were talking about there was kids that have gone out and gone onto their PlayStations and their Xboxes, and they've brought tons and tons of V-Bucks for their skins for Fortnite. And parents are, raging about the fact that their kids have brought all this stuff on there, and there should be more protection and stuff. And I went online and had a look at the stories, and every single comment under there was going, parents put in the credit card. The parents put in the credit card. The parents put in the, it's that kind of thing of like going, well, hold on, you did put it in there to begin with. You didn't do it. Whereas it's that kind of thing of there are so many parents that, that have locked in. I mean, I've seen it with my own friend, kids sitting there just buying stuff, and these loot boxes encourage that. And if you think, and it's that thing of when you take a child and you put them in front of a device with no control, they will just keep buying those loot boxes to get what they want. And it's that thing of it's so easily done. And that, it's that kind of thing of if they wanted the costume or they wanted the character, once they brought that, they would have not spent any more money. And so there is that thing of you can see how it is predatory. And, in some ways, I am really glad that Belgium have stepped up, because that means that other European countries are going to start following suit. If Europe starts pushing on it, I suspect Canada and other countries and Australia will do the same thing, as it will spread through. As the trouble is, a lot of governments as well, video games and anything to do with this tend to get lost in it. But, we'll start creeping through. And I do not think this is the end of it. This is going to continue. But the fact that a Disney game has been pulled really doesn't. It really is that kind of thing. It wouldn't surprise me if other stuff starts happening. Not that there's a lot of other games, but there are some of the Marvel ones and some of the Star Wars ones. They're so heavily reliant on loot boxes to get those new characters and stuff. And I think it's just going to be a start of trends. And I think is on one hand, if you're a player in Belgium, you can just go out and buy normal video games and pay the price like it was back in the nice days of 10 years ago, where you never had to worry about this stuff. But any closing thoughts on that before we head off?
Two quick thoughts. One, it is interesting this is a Disney game, but it's worth remembering the straw that broke the camel's back was Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
That was when the loot boxes really went to the, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And then second bit, we're starting to see more and more people entering politics who come from an era where video games are part of the landscape, because a lot of legislation is done by very old men who are completely out of touch with modern conveniences, how modern technology works. And we're starting to see, at least here in America, and I would presume in Europe too, I don't follow European politics for obvious reasons for the most part. So
it wouldn't make any news over there.
But even in this last election cycle that just finished up, we saw a lot of younger people getting elected to Congress and the Senate. And these are people who would at least have a baseline understanding of how games work, or know people that they can talk to understand how games work. And I think we're going to start seeing less and less of this video game violence causes all this stuff, and loot boxes, and they'll understand how loot boxes work for better or worse. And I think we will start seeing...
They'll all have shares in big companies that sell them.
I mean, they'll probably be bribed with loot boxes. I mean, that's the future, right? You can't track that. So, but
yeah,
they'll at least be able to do proper legislation. Now, whether that legislation is banning loot boxes, making them more transparent, making them less accessible to people under 18, whatever, we'll see where that goes in the future. Like I said earlier, I would not mind if premium that is paid for with actual cash loot boxes just disappeared tomorrow. Gone, poof. I have no problem with that. Last thought. There is a Star Wars Galaxy of Hero player by the name of Mobile Gamer. I know that's horribly original, but he has a YouTube channel. They released a new character named Revan from the Knights of the Old Republic onto Galaxy of Heroes, and he recorded himself. It's not quite loot boxes because he knew what he was getting, but the amount that he was getting was varied. And he recorded himself doing this, where he spent literally like $400 to unlock this, and this slow progression of him kind of realizing how much money he is spending on a single digital character in a single game is massively eye-opening. So we'll see if we can find that YouTube video, or look it up on YouTube. Mobile Gamer, Revan, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
I hope enough people look at the video to pay him. The show but that's the thing, isn't it? It's £400, and it's like for an in-game character. For £400, you could go out, buy a PlayStation 4, and like 3 or 4 AAA single title games, and it's just like, no, that's all right. You've got an in-game character, which on a video game that they'll just pull on the plug, just like there you go. But nevertheless, let us know in the comments below what you guys think of Belgium banning loot boxes and the effect that it's going to have on the Kingdom Hearts games, and I'm sure other video games as well. Love to know your thoughts. James, where can they find you?
You find me heroiclegacy.com.
And on that, guys, go check us out over at DisKingdom.com, and we shall see you guys soon. Later.